The Alpha species revealed humanity. Part 1. The conference hall stretched for half a mile in every direction, its walls made of something that looked like crystal but felt warm to the touch. Ambassador Maria stood at the entrance and tried not to feel small. All around her, aliens of every possible shape moved through the space. Some walked on legs, others floated, and a few seemed to phase in and out of existence as they traveled. "Stay close," she said to her team. Captain nodded, his hand resting near his sidearm out of habit. The other 4 humans in the delegation pressed together, trying to take in everything at once. This was humanity's first official contact with the Galactic Council. After 50 years of radio silence following their first FTL jump, Earth had finally received an invitation. The message had been clear. Come to the central station, present yourself for classification, and learn your place in the galactic community. A floating sphere approached them, its surface covered in blinking lights. "Human delegation follow," it said in perfect English. The translator implant behind Maria's ear buzzed slightly, adjusting to the artificial voice. They followed the sphere through the massive hall. Other species stepped aside or simply ignored them. Maria noticed how some aliens wore elaborate clothing while others went bare. Some had obvious weapons, others seemed unarmed but radiated danger nonetheless. The diversity was overwhelming. The sphere led them to a smaller chamber where a semicircle of seats rose like an amphitheater. Only 3 of the seats were occupied. In the center sat something that looked like a collection of purple crystals arranged in a vaguely humanoid shape. To the left, a being that hurt to look at directly, as if it existed in several places at once. To the right, 3 figures that seemed to share a single body, their heads connected by glowing threads of light. "The human delegation," the sphere announced before floating away. Maria stepped forward and bowed slightly, a gesture they decided might translate across cultures. "I am Ambassador Maria, representing Earth and humanity. We're honored to." "Archon, begin classification," the crystal being said, its voice like wind chimes. Before Maria could respond, light filled the room. A beam of pure white energy swept over the human delegation from an invisible source. Maria felt it pass through her, a tingling sensation that made her teeth ache. The scan lasted perhaps 10 seconds. Then holographic displays appeared in the air, filled with symbols and graphs that Maria couldn't read. The 3 beings studied the data in silence. "Gamma classification," the shifting being said, its voice coming from everywhere and nowhere. "Standard carbon-based biology, no telepathic capability, no phase abilities, limited environmental tolerance, maximum 80 solar cycles, physical durability rating 3.2, tool use level 7, FTL capability achieved through conventional means." The 3 figures on the right spoke in unison, their voices harmonizing. "Another average species. Grant them standard gamma privileges. Home system plus 2 adjacent sectors. Mining rights restricted. Military forces limited to defensive measures. No council voting rights." Maria felt her heart sink. "Excuse me, but we weren't expecting." "Your species information has been logged with Archon," the crystal being said. "You will receive your designation packet within 1 solar cycle. The system has never been wrong. You are dismissed." "But we have so much to offer," Maria said, her voice rising despite herself. "Our art, our culture, our—" "Many species believe they are exceptional," the unified voices said. "The system measures capability, not potential. You are Gamma class. This audience is concluded." The crystal being gestured and the sphere returned. The message was clear. Maria looked at who shook his head slightly. There was nothing to do but leave. They spent the next 3 days on the station, trying to learn what they could before returning to Earth. The humans discovered that the galactic community had a strict hierarchy. At the bottom were Omega species, barely recognized as sentient. Above them came Delta, then Gamma, then Beta. At the top were the Alphas. Only 3 species held alpha status. The crystal beings, who possessed a hive mind that could process information faster than any computer. The phase shifters, who could manipulate spacetime itself. And the collective, the 3-in-1 beings with psychic powers that could crush a ship with thought alone. The alphas ruled the council. Beta species carried out their will. Gamma species like humanity were tolerated but largely ignored. Delta and Omega species existed at the mercy of everyone else. 50 years, said as they prepared to return to Earth. 50 years we spent preparing for first contact, and they dismiss us in 5 minutes. They don't know us, Maria said, but even she could hear the doubt in her voice. The journey home took 2 weeks. Their ship, the UNSS Discovery, was a marvel of human engineering, or so they'd thought. At the station, they'd seen vessels that made their ship look like a child's toy. Vessels that could cross the galaxy in days, that could survive in the cores of stars, that could become invisible or intangible at will. Humanity's pride had taken a beating. They were 4 days from Earth when the proximity alarm screamed. Was on the bridge in seconds, Maria right behind him. 3 ships, the sensor officer reported. Configuration matches raiders. Maria pulled up the information they'd gathered about a beta-class species, reptilian, known for piracy and slavery. They preyed on weaker species, taking cargo and captives. Open a channel, ordered. The main screen flickered to show a commander, its scales dark green, and humans, it hissed. New species, weak species. Gamma rating means easy prey. Surrender your ship and half your crew will live. We're a diplomatic vessel, Maria said, stepping forward. We have nothing of value to you. Let us pass in. Everything has value, soft skin. Your ship, your technology, your bodies. Surrender or die. Muted the channel. Options. We can't outrun them, the pilot said. Our weapons are defensive grade, theirs are military. We're 3-to-1. Can we jump to FTL? Maria asked. Not for another hour. Jump drive needs to cool down from our last transition. Looked at Maria. They both knew what a gamma species was supposed to do in this situation. Surrender, hope for mercy, trust that the council would intervene eventually. No, said. No, Maria asked. No, we don't surrender. He opened the channel again. Vessel, you have made a mistake. Leave now and we'll forget this happened. The commander laughed, showing rows of sharp teeth. Brave words from weak species. Very well, we take your ship by force. The channel cut. Alarms blared as the vessels closed in. What happened next would become legend among both human and histories, though they would remember it very differently. They expected the humans to fight defensively, to try and hold them off until help arrived. That's what gamma species did. Instead, did something they hadn't considered. He rammed them. The Discovery's reinforced bow smashed into the lead ship's flank, tearing through shields designed to stop energy weapons, not kinetic impacts. The collision sent both vessels spinning, but the Discovery had been built by a species that understood momentum and mass. Boarding teams go, shouted. While they recovered from the shock, human security teams launched from concealed airlocks. They crossed the gap in emergency suits and breached the damaged ship. They expected a traditional boarding action. Instead, they got guerrilla warfare. The humans didn't advance in formation. They used every dirty trick humanity had learned in thousands of years of warfare. They vented atmosphere sections behind them. They used welding torches as weapons. They set traps with their own damaged equipment. They poisoned the life support with chemicals from the medical bay. One human team sealed themselves in a corridor with 15 and detonated grenades, killing everyone including themselves. Another team hacked the ship's systems and broadcast human screaming over every speaker, a psychological weapon they had never encountered. The second ship tried to board the Discovery and found that the humans had turned their own ship into a death trap. Every corridor had become a killing ground. Every door might be welded shut or rigged to explode. The humans fought with a ferocity that made no sense for a gamma species. They refused to retreat even when surrounded. They fought injured. They fought dying. After 2 hours, the commander ordered a retreat. His ships had superior firepower but couldn't close in because the humans were still on his lead vessel. If he destroyed it, he'd kill his own crew, and the humans seemed perfectly willing to die taking with them. The boarding teams made it back to the Discovery. 8 humans had died, 23 were wounded, but they'd driven off 3 Beta-class military vessels. As the ships limped away, slumped in his chair, Maria stood beside him, her hands shaking. "They'll report this," she said. "Let them," said. "Maybe then the council will take us seriously." But the report went to their Beta-class superiors, who dismissed it as cowardice. Clearly, the commander had faced technical difficulties and invented a story about savage gamma species to excuse his failure. Archon's classification was never wrong. Humans were gamma, weak, harmless. The Discovery returned to Earth to a hero's welcome, but Maria couldn't shake the feeling that they'd crossed a line. They'd proven humans could fight, but would the galaxy see that as strength or as evidence that they were dangerous? "What do we do now?" she asked as Earth came into view. "We prepare," he said. "They classified us as weak. Fine, let them think that, but when they come calling again, we'll be ready. Humanity didn't survive this long by giving up." Maria looked at the blue planet below. Home. A world that had tried to kill humans for millions of years through ice ages, volcanoes, diseases, and predators. A world that had forged humanity in fire. "Archon measured the wrong things," she said quietly. Nodded. "Then we'll show them what they missed." Part 2. 5 years passed. Earth transformed its initial humiliation into motivation. Humanity spread through its 2 permitted sectors with the energy of a species that had something to prove. Where other gamma species built stations in comfortable orbits, humans went places no one else wanted. They established a colony on Titan's edge, a moon with gravity twice Earth's standard, and an atmosphere that would poison most species in seconds. The colony thrived. They built another settlement inside an asteroid field so dense that automated pilots called it the grinder. Human pilots flew through it manually, learning every rock's position through sheer repetition. Admiral Sarah stood on the observation deck of Outpost Defiance and watched the construction below. The outpost sat in high orbit around a planet designated as uninhabitable by the Council. Too much radiation, they'd said, completely useless. Humanity disagreed. The radiation could be shielded, and the mineral deposits were extraordinary. Now 3,000 humans lived and worked here, mining resources that other species had written off. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the Council relay," her aide said. Sarah turned from the window, put it through. The hologram showed as she didn't recognize, its crystal body pulsing with colors. "Outpost Defiance, you are operating outside your designated zones." "We're in Sector 12, Sarah said calmly. "That falls within our permitted 2 sectors adjacent to Earth." "Sector 12 was not designated for habitation. You are violating." "We're violating nothing," Sarah interrupted. "The designation said we could operate in adjacent sectors. It didn't say which parts of those sectors, unless you want to rewrite our agreement." The pulsed red for a moment. "You operate in zones others abandoned for good reason." "Then others lack imagination," Sarah said. "Is there anything else?" The transmission ended. Sarah smiled. The Council was watching humanity now, even if they pretended not to care. Good, let them watch. But humanity's spread wasn't just physical. Human traders showed up at markets across the permitted zones. They didn't have the best technology or the rarest goods, but they had something others didn't. They listened. A human trader named sat across from a merchant, a species that looked like a cross between a spider and a bird. There was complaining about the traders who controlled the local route. They phase through customs, the clicked. They cheat, but they are beta, we are delta, we cannot complain. Nodded, what if you could sell to the instead? Different route, different buyers. They hate us, old war, 3 centuries past. But they love crystal work, right? And you trade with the, what if you were the middleman? Thus many eyes blinked in sequence, the would never deal with. They would if they didn't know, said. You sell to me, I sell to them. Everyone profits and old hatreds stay buried. It was a simple idea. Use humans as neutral intermediaries. But simple ideas had power. Within a year, human traders were brokering deals across species that hadn't spoken in centuries. Humanity became the galaxy's unofficial diplomats, not through power but through practicality. Back on Earth, human culture was spreading in unexpected ways. Named a downloaded human entertainment out of curiosity. The first movie he watched was called Die Hard. He watched it 3 times in a row, fascinated by the concept of a protagonist who succeeded through determination rather than superior power. Shared it with his collective. Within a month, human action movies were the most downloaded entertainment in space. The concept of an underdog who refused to quit resonated with species across the galaxy. But not everyone was pleased with humanity's growing presence. In the council chambers, a beta species called the Empire was making its case for expansion. The neutral zones are inefficient, Commander said, his mechanical enhancements gleaming. We could bring order, increase production, benefit all. Counselor of the considered this. The neutral zones exist to prevent conflicts like the ones that nearly destroyed the Council 2,000 years ago. Times change, said. We have the strength to maintain peace through power. The alternative is chaos. The representative phased slightly. We will not support expansion into neutral territory. Too many species exist there without Council oversight. Gamma and Delta species, said dismissively. They contribute nothing. They should be grateful for proper leadership. The debate continued for weeks. In the end, the Council decided to remain neutral. They would not support the expansion, but they would not stop it either. Let beta species sort out their own conflicts. They took this as permission. The invasion began without warning. Fleets poured into the neutral zones, claiming systems one by one. Delta species fell within days. The few Gamma species in the zone tried to organize resistance but lacked the military capacity. The galaxy watched with the detached interest of those who believed themselves safe. Beta species warred occasionally. It was messy but temporary. Eventually, they'd exhaust themselves and the Council would broker peace. Then they reached the edge of human space. The colony of New Hope sat on a marginal world that humanity had terraformed over 5 years. 12,000 people lived there, farming land that shouldn't have been farmable and mining ore from mountains that were technically too unstable to work. The fleet arrived in orbit and broadcast a simple message: surrender or face orbital bombardment. Colony Administrator James Park called an emergency meeting. Every adult in the colony gathered in the main hall, farmers in work clothes next to miners still covered in dust. They want us to evacuate or submit to rule, James said. We have 48 hours to decide. What about the Council? Someone asked. The Council is debating. They might intervene, they might not. Earth, another voice called. 2 weeks away. Even if they sent the fleet now, we'd be under occupation before help arrived. Silence filled the hall. James could see fear in faces around him, but he saw something else too. The same stubborn determination that had made these people leave Earth to farm a world everyone said was worthless. I say we fight, said Maria. She was 73, had survived the Chicago catastrophe back on Earth, and had been one of the first to volunteer for colonization. They think we're weak because we're Gamma. Let's teach them different. We're 12,000 civilians against a military fleet, James said, but he was already running calculations in his head. "We're 12,000 humans," Maria said. "There's a difference." The vote wasn't close. New Hope would resist. They had expected immediate surrender. When the deadline passed and humans remained on the planet, Commander ordered a demonstration. A single kinetic strike, precisely targeted to destroy the main settlement. The strike hit an empty valley. The settlement was gone, burrowed underground in the 48 hours they'd been given. When sent down ground forces, they found a ghost town. Then the guerrilla war began. The humans had 5 years of mining experience on New Hope. They knew every tunnel, every cave, every unstable rock formation. They turned the planet itself into a weapon. Troops advancing through a valley found themselves caught in a controlled avalanche. A patrol investigating an abandoned mine triggered explosives that brought down half a mountain. Combat drones sent underground encountered corridors that collapsed, trapping them in rock. They had never fought an enemy like this. Most species either met them in open battle or surrendered. The humans did neither. They struck from hiding, killed whoever they could, then vanished into tunnels they couldn't follow. Commander increased the bombardment, but every strike seemed to hit empty ground. The humans had spread throughout the underground network, moving constantly. They transformed their entire settlement into a mobile operation, carrying essential equipment from cache to cache. Weeks became months. They committed more forces, certain that numbers would eventually overwhelm the colonists. But the humans adapted to every tactic. When scanners got better at detecting underground movement, the humans learned to mask their heat signatures. When combat drones were sent into the tunnels, the humans built traps that turned the drones' own weapons against them. The cost was terrible. 40% of New Hope's population died in the first 6 months. Children as young as 12 served as medics and messengers. Elderly colonists volunteered for suicide missions to collapse tunnels on forces. But the colony endured. The galaxy began paying attention. News feeds showed footage of the siege. Species across the Council territories watched in fascination as a Gamma-class colony held off a Beta-class military operation. In the Council chambers, Counselor brought up the situation. "This has gone on long enough. We should intervene. Let Beta species resolve Beta conflicts," they said. "The humans are Gamma," pointed out, "who fight like Beta or higher. Perhaps Archon made an error." "Archon does not make errors," the collective intoned. But privately began accessing Earth's historical records. What she found disturbed her. 10,000 years of human history showed an almost unbroken chain of warfare. Humans fighting nature, fighting each other, fighting diseases, fighting their own psychology. They should have destroyed themselves 100 times over. Instead, they'd used each conflict to grow stronger, more resilient, more creative in their violence. She found records of ancient battles where humans with bronze weapons defeated empires with iron through superior tactics. Wars where humans fought for years in frozen wastelands or burning deserts. Plagues that killed half of humanity, yet the survivors rebuilt. Nuclear weapons that should have ended their species, but instead led to the longest peace in their history. Humanity's entire existence was a story of facing impossible odds and refusing to surrender. Made a decision. She couldn't stop the siege, but she could ensure someone was watching. She sent a council observation team to New Hope. They arrived 6 months into the siege. What they found shocked them. The humans had transformed the entire planet into a fortress. Every mountain had hidden positions. Every valley was a kill zone. The colonists were starving, exhausted, and traumatized, but they were still fighting. A council observer interviewed Administrator James Park in an underground medical station. Around them, wounded colonists rested on makeshift beds. "Why do you continue?" the observer asked. "Your losses are unsustainable." James smiled, though his face was gaunt from malnutrition. "Because that's what humans do. We endure, We adapt. We refuse to quit. But logically, you cannot win. Maybe not, but we can make them pay for every meter of ground. We can show the galaxy that gamma doesn't mean weak, and we can hold on long enough for help to arrive. If help arrives, the observer said. It will, James said with certainty, because we're humans, and humans don't abandon each other. He was right. The Earth fleet arrived 1 week later, 8 months after the siege began, but they found the forces already in retreat. The colonists of New Hope had won. The Council was forced to acknowledge what had happened. They elevated humanity's classification to beta, an unprecedented jump for any species. But Counselor knew the truth that others refused to see. Humanity wasn't beta. They never had been gamma either. She requested a formal review of humanity's classification, something that hadn't been done in Council history. Archon itself would need to the species that refused to accept limitations. The request was granted. Within 6 months, every species in the galaxy would learn what already suspected. The humans weren't just another species climbing the hierarchy. They were something the Council had never encountered before. Part 3. The Grand Assembly Hall had never held so many species at once. Every tier of the Council was represented, from the smallest Omega species clinging to the upper galleries to the Alpha species in their central positions of honor. They had all come to witness something unprecedented in the 10,000 years of galactic civilization. Archon, the ancient intelligence that classified all species, had requested a public reevaluation. The subject was humanity. Ambassador Maria stood in the center of the hall, older now but steady on her feet. Beside her stood a young woman named, an anthropologist who specialized in comparative civilizations. The rest of the human delegation waited behind them, representing Earth and its growing collection of colonies. Maria remembered the last time she'd stood before the Council 5 years ago. The dismissal, the casual cruelty of being judged and found wanting in mere seconds. Now the entire galaxy was watching. Archon's voice filled the chamber, coming from everywhere and nowhere. It was the first time most species had heard it speak directly. Classification review commenced. Subject, humanity. Current designation, beta. Requested review level, complete analysis. Holographic displays filled the air above the assembly, showing data that scrolled faster than most species could process. But Archon wasn't speaking to them yet. It was speaking to itself, reviewing every interaction humanity had with the galaxy. Query, said Counselor, what prompted this review? Anomalies detected, Archon replied. Humanity exhibits behavioral patterns inconsistent with measured capabilities. Standard classification metrics insufficient to explain observed outcomes. Commander of the stood from his position in the beta section. His forces had finally withdrawn from New Hope 3 months ago. The cost had been devastating. The humans used guerrilla tactics, cowardly but effective. This does not warrant a full review. Incorrect assessment, Archon said. Tactical analysis shows human strategies exceeded beta-level creativity by factor of 3.7. Psychological resilience exceeded beta norms by factor of 5.2. Adaptability exceeded all existing classifications. The assembly stirred. Murmurs filled the hall in 1,000 languages. Archon continued. Beginning comprehensive presentation. All species are required to witness. The holographic displays shifted. They began showing Earth itself, rotating slowly in space. Then the view zoomed in, showing the planet's surface across millions of years. Humanity evolved on a Class 4 hostile world, Archon stated. Designation indicates extreme environmental variability, high predator density, and frequent mass casualty events. The displays showed ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts. Species after species watched as Earth tried to kill everything on it, over and over. Most sentient species evolve on Class 1 or Class 2 worlds, Archon continued. Stable climates, moderate predation, gradual environmental changes. This allows specialization. Humanity specialized in nothing because their world required everything. The image changed to show early humans, barely recognizable ancestors running across savannas. Persistence hunting, Archon explained. Unique among predator species. Humans do not have superior speed, strength, or natural weapons. They survive by refusing to stop. They chase prey for days until the target dies of exhaustion. This created a psychology that interprets exhaustion as temporary and obstacles as problems to solve. The representative phased forward. All species face challenges. This does not explain their combat effectiveness. Displaying combat analysis, Archon said. The holographic displays showed battle after battle from human history. Ancient armies clashing with bronze swords, medieval sieges lasting years, world wars consuming entire continents. Always, humans fighting humans in increasingly creative and terrible ways. In 10,000 years of recorded civilization, humanity experienced approximately 14,500 distinct armed conflicts, Archon stated. Average duration of peace, 2.3 years. Average duration of warfare, 15.7 years. Most species would suffer total collapse under such conditions. Humanity used each conflict to innovate. The displays showed technological progression. Spears becoming swords, becoming guns, becoming missiles, becoming antimatter weapons. Each innovation driven by the need to fight more effectively. When humans achieved nuclear capability, Council projections gave them a 13% chance of survival, Archon continued. They were expected to destroy themselves. Instead, nuclear weapons created their longest period of relative peace. They learned to weaponize even self-destruction as a deterrent. In the Omega section, a small species called the began chittering excitedly. Their translator rendered it. But they're so fragile, we saw their physical scans. How did they survive? Displaying survival analysis, Archon said. The images shifted again, showing humanity's near-extinction events. The supervolcano reducing the population to perhaps 10,000 individuals. Plagues killing hundreds of millions. Famines, droughts, floods. Each time, humanity balanced on the edge of extinction. And each time they came back. Humanity exhibits post-traumatic growth, Archon explained. Unique psychological phenomenon. Where other species break under prolonged trauma, humans frequently emerge stronger. Their art, philosophy, and greatest innovations arise from their darkest periods. They do not merely survive catastrophe. They use it as a catalyst. Counselor stood, her crystal body poolsing blue. Archon, you stated standard metrics were insufficient. Explain. Current classification system measures peak capabilities, Archon said. Maximum strength, intelligence, technological level, psionic potential. These metrics identify species most likely to dominate through superiority. The displays showed the 3 alpha species, each demonstrating their remarkable abilities. Processing information at computer speeds, manipulating spacetime, collective crushing matter with thought. Humanity possesses no exceptional peak capabilities, Archon continued. But classification system failed to measure critical variable, baseline refusal to accept limitations. The assembly fell silent. Elaborate said. Humans do not fight by maximizing strengths, Archon explained. They fight by minimizing relevance of opponent's strengths. Combat simulation analysis versus humanity. Advantages, superior processing, coordination, technological sophistication. Predicted outcome, victory in direct confrontation. The display showed a simulated battle, forces crushing human positions with overwhelming firepower. However, humans do not engage in direct confrontation when disadvantaged. Revised simulation incorporating observed human tactical patterns. The battle restarted. This time humans scattered, they struck from hiding, they targeted supply lines, they used terrain, they employed psychological warfare, they accepted casualties that would make other species surrender, then kept fighting. The simulation ran for years of compressed time. The forces slowly crumbled, not defeated in battle, but exhausted by an enemy that refused to be destroyed. Similar outcomes against and collective, Archon stated. In extended conflict scenarios, humanity wins through attrition. They cannot be broken because they do not recognize broken as a permanent state. Commander spoke again, his mechanical voice angry. These are just simulations, theory, not fact. Incorrect, Archon said. New Hope Colony provided observational data. 12,000 civilians held against 40,000 military personnel for 8 months. Human casualties, 47% killed, 32% wounded. Yet Colony remained functional and achieved military victory. The displays showed footage from New Hope, humans fighting in darkness, children carrying supplies through tunnels, elderly colonists setting traps, people who should have surrendered months ago still fighting. No other gamma species has achieved similar outcome, Archon stated. No beta species has demonstrated equivalent resilience. This represents classification failure. In the section, 3-in-1 beings consulted in harmony. Then they spoke as one. Archon, what is your recommended classification? Humanity must be classified as Alpha, Archon said. The assembly erupted. Protests, demands for explanation, accusations of system failure. The noise was deafening. Silence, Archon commanded, and the hall fell quiet. Classification explanation required. Current Alpha designation measures species most likely to dominate, but dominance is not survival. The universe does not favor the strong. It favors the persistent. The displays changed one final time, showing graphs of species survival rates across galactic history. Thousands of species had risen and fallen. Strong species, smart species, advanced species, all eventually declined, conquered, or destroyed themselves. Pattern analysis shows critical flaw in classification philosophy, Archon stated. Alpha species become alpha by maximizing advantages. This creates rigidity. When environment changes beyond adaptation capacity, alpha species fail. Humanity reached space capability without any physical advantages, without psionics, without natural weapons. They succeeded through pure adaptability. This represents true alpha characteristic, ability to persist regardless of circumstances. Ambassador stepped forward. Maria nodded to her, letting the younger woman speak. Archon is describing something we call defiance, said, her voice steady despite addressing the entire galaxy. It's not about being stronger or smarter. It's about refusing to accept that problems are permanent. 70,000 years ago, our species nearly went extinct. We were down to maybe 10,000 people. We should have died. We didn't because we're too stubborn to quit. She gestured to the displays showing Earth's history. Every other species looks at a hostile environment and asks, how do we leave? We look at it and ask, how do we stay? Every species looks at impossible odds and calculates surrender. We look at impossible odds and start building solutions, not because we're special, but because we've never had any other choice. The phased forward completely, solidifying for the first time in the assembly. You claim this makes you worthy of alpha status, the ability to suffer and survive. No, said, we don't claim anything. Archon made its determination. But if you're asking what defines us, it's not suffering. It's that we look at a universe that keeps trying to kill us and we take it personally. We're not the strongest species. But we're the species that turned impossible into not yet. Spoke again. Archon confirmed classification. Is humanity alpha? Confirmed, Archon said. Humanity classified as alpha effective immediately. Basis: superior adaptability, psychological resilience, tactical creativity, and demonstrated capacity to persist under conditions that would end other civilizations. They represent what alpha designation was designed to identify: species most likely to endure and thrive regardless of circumstances. The hall fell silent again. 10,000 years of established hierarchy had just shifted. Commander stood, his mechanical enhancements whirring. This is unacceptable. They've been in space for 5 years. 5 years. We have been beta for 3,000. Time is irrelevant, Archon stated. Capacity is absolute. Classification adjusted to match reality, not preference. The commander looked around the assembly, seeking support. He found none. Every species present had seen the data. They'd watched simulations of humanity defeating species that should have crushed them. They'd seen the footage from New Hope. They'd seen what happened when humanity decided not to surrender. Slowly, Commander sat down. The representative spoke. We withdraw from Alpha status. Humanity may have our position. Unnecessary, Archon said. Alpha status is not limited by numbers. All species meeting criteria receive classification. Remain Alpha. The collective hummed in three-part harmony. We acknowledge humanity's classification. We offer diplomatic partnership. Your adaptability complements our stability. Together, we could benefit the galaxy. Maria stepped forward now, taking the lead again. Earth accepts our new classification, but we want to be clear about something. We didn't ask to be Alpha. We didn't fight to prove our strength. We fought because we refused to be victims. That's not going to change. She looked up at the assembled species, thousands of different forms watching her. But being Alpha means responsibility. We understand that. The other Alpha species have maintained order for 10,000 years. We're not here to disrupt that. We're here to help species that find themselves in situations we